Welcome to Cut Daisies and Unicorns, and this is Trailer Tuesday, everybody, so welcome back, and we're excited to be able to share with you the things that are happening next. Steve, what is happening next?
Well, you know what, Phil? I think that it's amazing. My head does so many things with the idea of Trailer Tuesday. I mean, and we could go down that path. But what I found is that doesn't really, like, listeners aren't looking for all the paths that we want to go down.
Yeah.
Although I could be wrong. Maybe the listeners are like, no, I love the rabbit trail.
We love it's possible.
It is.
That is part of the suspension of belief.
Well, you know, the thing is when you go down the trail, or I just watched the Bobby Fischer story from, I don't know, it's 2015 or something like that.
Yeah.
Spider-Man plays Bobby Fischer in this movie. And
Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
Is that the Spider-Man?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's the Spider-Man that I speak of. But anyway, when so they give him a handler, and he's a priest who is a very good chess player as well. And then as they're going through this movie, you know, the guy who approached him, he's a lawyer. You never really know whether he's connected to the government or not.
Oh.
Speaking, I feel like I should put my arm up and say, here's another place where I could go down a rabbit trail. But I'm choosing not to for the sake of this conversation. But rabbit trail, the priest says to the lawyer, chess is a rabbit hole. And sometimes when you go down that hole, you get lost and you never come back.
Wow.
And so, anyway, I just saw that last night. It was, like, fascinating. Yeah. So, rabbit
Speaking
trail.
of chess, then, I guess that would be the other rabbit. Did you watch Queen's Gambit?
Oh, I've actually seen that twice. The series.
Right.
Yeah, twice. And probably am getting close for another run.
Yeah.
Now, the fascination with that, for me, is not necessarily the game of chess.
Right.
Although, apparently, thank you, Marilyn and Don, Mom and Dad Cole, for raising, apparently, a son who was educated on some level. I learned to play chess early, and not at any level of what's going on in that whole thing.
Yeah.
But I'm fascinated with her story as the orphan. Fascinated with early medical treatment programs.
Yeah.
Fascinated with habit. Fascinated with personal growth and desire. Another thing, I really like the soundtracks. Like in with what's going on in the whole thing, but also the attire.
Yeah,
it's a fascinating fashion, just work through and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
but such a great story of loss, and overcoming, and again another rabbit trail. You get online and read and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And theory has it that the gentleman she played chess with in the chess park as she left was actually the Russian champion's father.
Oh.
I don't know how people speculate this.
I don't know either. That would be... it would be a little bit of a stretch on being able to actually say that that's what's happening, but...
This is the culture we find ourselves in, though.
Right.
People are willing to stretch themselves and to be definite about things that they have no idea about.
Yeah.
Like me in time travel.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm willing to put myself out there, and this is where I'm going to draw the line.
Yeah.
I believe in it.
Yeah, I think that there's lots of dimensions of that show. I mean, whether you talked about the early treatment, even amongst the orphans, they were giving them tranquilizers.
Oh yeah.
Like, whoa, wait, like is that a real thing? Is that actually what they were doing? I mean, and apparently it was for a short time before they figured out, like, yeah, this isn't how we should handle this.
Yeah.
But what that caused in her, and what came first? I mean, when you start to notice that she starts to see the chessboard,
Right.
like in her head, but ultimately she sees it on the ceiling.
Yeah.
Did that come because of the tranquilizers? And is that what then she draws in and says, oh, I need this in order to see this? Is those the, opening up channels in your brain that maybe previously weren't there?
And the answer is yes. I believe that it opened up a pathway. What she couldn't get over through the whole thing was she thought she needed that for that to happen.
Mm.
But in the final episode, when she sees the pieces,
yeah, that's right,
she's stone cold sober.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's part of the telling of this story of her overcoming the demons. Now, you know what else is interesting?
Mm.
That her clothing picked for the final scene has her dressed as a pawn.
I didn't even notice that.
It also has her dressed as the white pawn, which they very eloquently in the story showed that the person who gained the draw of the first move really did have a way, an advantage in the game. And I just find it fascinating how that even, I believe, then that goes back to the story of the doubling up of the pawn and the sacrifice of the pawns and how that all goes in. Now, I'm going to have to fact check that.
Yeah. Because we want to be accurate.
Might have to cut that whole section out. The beauty of editing video.
Yeah, so this is what happens even on Trailer Tuesday when we're going to be talking about what the interview is coming up here on Thursday. But so far we haven't even touched on that. We're just talking about chess and even Bobby Fischer in the Queen's Gambit. So that's what we're, but as Trailer Tuesday, we also have a great interview coming up. And that interview happened to turn into a little bit more with, so we have John Nugent coming up on Thursday. And that ended up being John turned into our
production intern.
Right, production intern.
And the really cool thing about John is John, musician locally here in Chicago, and just, wow, again, such a great story. And I think one of the things that you're going to find about Cut Daisies and Unicorns is that, I mean, there's such beauty in the story. And so obviously if you're listening, stories of humanity interest you, and as you work through just the different parts, I think you're going to find that even if something in the moment you don't connect to, there's going to be something just around the corner. And so one of the things Phil and I are talking about is how we can make it clear in the descriptions and even the categories, and we'll talk about that even in a later trailer in regards to how you can find the content that you're looking for. But there's so much content, so little time.
That's true. Yeah, because that's part of it. As we talk about these stories and digging into people's stories and finding out, what's it. Yeah, so we spend time talking a lot about music too.
Yeah,
and you're gonna see that as also a thread that goes through lots of the interviews, even so far that we've done and we've talked to people about, is we talk about music.
Yeah, and we bring up music in this trailer because John, as a local musician, talk about multifaceted. You're going to hear the story of an Irish immigrant and how his dad came to the U.S. You're going to hear the story. Really a growing up story of this is. how I've experienced and lived out life. And man, what we laugh, we reminisce, and once again, when it comes to music, my inadequacy in even being able to play, I that name. It's right there. No. Oh.
Well, you talk about that inadequacy, and then you also learned about my inadequacy about some of the technical things of music. So, like, I know music and, you know, pop music and all kinds of different music, but then when it comes to, like, the actual, like, this is how you play it, and yeah, that's when I let you and John talk.
So many stories. Yeah. So we're looking forward to sharing John Nugent with you. Think it'll be a good episode where you'll get to meet one of the people in our lives locally, and just know this is really just first steps on a journey of story together. What would you say to people who think that the only area we want to talk about is suspended belief areas?
Well, to me, I think that there's also so much more. I mean, but also even when you're talking, you know, when you're learning something about people, I think we also are saying, like, suspend not just your belief, but suspend your preconceived notions.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
No, that's a really, really good point.
So you're not coming into trying to learn about somebody by saying, oh, like, well, if I know where they're from or if I know their background, then I already know. Or you're reading a book by its cover. Like, all right, so, you know, John's got long hair, you know, whatever. He's got a weak beard. I don't know.
Oh, ouch. Sorry.
I know that was an issue for John.
Yeah. Well, I love how you brought that up and how you've brought that around in regards to suspend your current. The word I'd like to use is bias. That word is really strong. People, when they hear the word bias, they start going to a place where they feel like that they may be under attack. And yet, it's just looking in the mirror. And so one of our foundational values is we're going to recognize we come to the table with our own biases.
Right.
And even at reminiscing as people are getting this trailer on a Tuesday, a few weeks after our last interview we aired, but the first interview that we ever shared, if after hearing Rosanna's story, you walk away and say, she's a socialist, there was nothing good about that, why would you even air that?
Right.
That's what we're calling out.
Yeah, and especially on that story to be able to think about, because I always find that to be one of the magic buzzwords that are out there right now. Socialism, I mean, and so automatically it's trying to put you in a different headspace. Yeah. And yes, as a democratic socialist, party within the Chicago system, you're thinking, oh, I already know about that, and you're jumping. But that's why even more important trying to know and understand her story, where she comes from, what it plays into as the story's unfolding. And to me, it's very important to lay down some of our, biases, our preconceived notions, judging a book by its cover. Like, we've done that all, and this is where it's led us to, having such jaded perspectives and views. And so it's like, all right, if we're going to learn about somebody, then let's actually hear their story.
Which brings me to a question that I'd like to ask the audience. How many books do you have that the only thing you know about that book is its cover.
Hmm.
I know that in our current culture, there are a lot of people who don't read books anyway. There are people who like to ascribe to a notion that they like to read books and they'll buy books. But how many people are actually getting in to digest what's in the book? And then I have a question about the books. Are you reading stuff that's easy to digest? Or are you reading stuff that is bringing up things that are hard to digest, that you're willing to wrestle through, to allow for a suspension of the current where you are right now to move into what could be gained by other knowledge?
So thinking about that and saying, so are you ultimately just reading something that you're already saying, oh, I already know that, or I'm on the same page as the author, whatever it might be, or are you trying to find stuff that's going to challenge you?
Exactly. And what does it even mean to be able to be willing to go down a path of discovery, to find out about something that you had no awareness of? Just because you don't know about something doesn't mean that it's not beneficial.
Right.
Doesn't mean that it's not able to be used by others for the benefit of community.
Right.
I could just really chase that. Again, a rabbit hole that we might never come out of.
I'm just thinking, I mean, there's so many ways I want to take, because I've got a couple of books, ones that I have not opened. I haven't started reading, but there's ones that I'm currently reading that it's also, not stuff that I would normally, pick up and read. So, yeah. I mean, and things that challenge me. So.
Well, you know what? I think that's a great place for today, that we could, again, on a Trailer Tuesday, just dabble a little bit. I think we've done that in a fair way. But the question to the audience would be, hey, where are you becoming the adventurer? To be able to discover something new, to be able to enter into a place of growth, and how, in that path of growth, can you see a circle broaden and then see where strength comes from? Good questions.
It is good questions. And there's lots of ways. So, I mean, we're going to let that one float and then revisit. That's the idea, right?
I think so.
Right.
Yeah.
So putting that out to y'all and making sure that what is it that you're being challenged with right now? What is it you're reading? And if you're saying, I don't really like to read, so do you listen? Lots of, there's a couple of avenues for audiobooks.
Yeah.
Are you listening to a book? So any of those I think are good to throw out there.
Well, and again, I think Rosanna brings out a really good point. Why is it that when funding is being cut, that it's cutting the things that take the life away from humanity? And so, if you haven't read a book in years, just encourage you. And you know what? We could tag on this trailer a few of the books that we're going through currently. And then if people would like to pick up some of that material, then it would be great fodder for conversation coming down the way. Yeah. All right. That's good. Well, welcome to Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
We're so glad that you joined, took a look, and we just want to share our heart of gratitude with you. Thanks for being on the journey with us, everyone.
Take care.